Yeah, the TryPod app, shit, years in the making. They're raising the stakes straight, bringing home the bacon. It's free to take, mate, so why are you waiting? Grab a slice of the cake, check your notifications, it's brazen. The pod's...
Welcome to the TryPod. It's time for the NBA season, so we've got to do an NBA season preview. Extravaganza tips off in 7 days. And who else to join me but the legend himself, Tala. You've got to remember him from, well, it's been quite regular. He makes appearances to preview the big NBA occasions, but we'll never forget 2 years ago, pretty much to the day, when Tala tipped out the Sacramento Kings to win the Pacific Division at 250-1. I reckon you can still dine off that to this day. Tala, how you doing?
Oh, man, it's great to be here, Jacob. Shout out to all the TryPods. It was awesome. Actually, the best guys that had a fill on that was a father and son. His name was Brad and Alex, and they put it with a couple of other things, and 50 on, 20K back. It was something like that. It was something amazing, and that's a good story. That's a good story. We'll see what we can do now. Yeah, that's right.
But we do have a remarkable record because you got 250-1 last year, and then not that mine compares to you, but I only gave out 2 division tips a year ago. And to remind people, it was a $7.50 winner with OKC, an $11 winner with Orlando. And there were multiple people messaging me that they did multi the pair and got over 80-1 on that. I was looking back, my $16 season multi last year. I also took OKC and the Magic, and they both made the playoffs really comfortably. OKC was a 1 seed. I had the Bulls to miss that missed easily. My only leg that didn't win the 16-1 was Pelicans to miss the playoffs. And the Pelicans were in the play-in tournament, came down to the final game. They were an underdog against the Kings, and they won and grabbed the 8th seed and denied my 16-1 multi last year. When you consider how many special event multis we've had get up for the TryPod, most recently being double digits in the Olympics, it's kind of crazy to think how many close calls we've had as well. So anyway, welcome to everyone that's tuned in. You better believe I've cooked up another multi for season 2024/25. And then on top of that, mate, we also both picked Boston. We were both really confident in that, and they won the championship last year by a wide margin, you'd have to say. And this time last year, we tipped them at 550. So I want to get straight into it and see what you're liking, because we've both, deep dived and can't wait for the season to tip off. And so we're just going to go division by division to give you the opportunity to say what you like or maybe dislike about various teams. And I'll start in the East, and I'll start with the Atlantic Division. So take it away with any thoughts you've got there.
Very strong division, this division. If you look at it, there's the top of that market. There's 3, you could say, contenders to win the whole championship. So the 76ers are built around Joel Embiid. New York Knicks, they've made a move for Karl Anthony Towns. And then you've got the Celtics, the defending champs. So, in terms of a bet, I'm sorry, I did like the Knicks in terms of their season total for overs before the Julius Randle and DiVincenzo trade for Cat. And now it's just not a bet for me. So in terms of that particular division, if you had to put me on, I'd just go with Boston, right? But they've got, some championship hangover, and, Porzingis won't be ready for the start of the season. So I'm just leaving it in a betting sense. But if I had to pick, I'd go Boston.
So that's curious to me. A little disagreement, but I can see your point of view. It's different to mine, that you liked the Knicks more as a regular season team with DDB and with Randall than you do with Cat. I can understand where you're coming from in terms of what production you might get out of those guys in games played. But I do think that the Knicks got even better with that trade, even if they did get more top heavy. But the best trade I think the Knicks made that no one's talking about anymore is getting Mikal Bridges, because I think he's so underrated. I think people are going to realize how great of a player he is. In my mind, Mikal Bridges, not exactly the same type of player, but a similar ability and difference maker on both sides of the ball to someone like Jaylen Brown, who just won Finals MVP. I think that is how valuable Bridges could be, and I think it's an amazing landing spot that he's found himself in. Now, I did want to say at the top of the show, I've looked at every team, and there's so many that you can make an upside for. And I found myself thinking over and over, like, if this team stays healthy, if player A and B stay healthy, this team could do X, right? And that is true. The fact is, it's an 82-game season. Then there's a play-in tournament for some, followed by 4 best-of-7 rounds. So attrition and injuries are always part of the NBA season. So I just, to not sound like a broken record, I just want that to be the proviso for any team that Tala or I speak highly of. A team can achieve X if they don't have any major losses, because a bad injuries always play a part, and that can derail anybody. So that's going to be the case. Of course, some teams are more susceptible than others. And in addition to talking teams, as I said, we'll do player awards. We'll do our finals prediction. We've even got a clip from Tristan. Okay, I do have a bet in this division. So I do think the Celtics come in with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. They won the title, but people will say they had a pretty charmed path to get there with the injuries that I just mentioned falling their way. You have Jaylen Brown doesn't get picked for the Olympics. You have Tatum hardly gets used in the Olympics. You've kept your team together, so there's lots of reasons why the Celtics should still be really good, although, as you said, Porzingis will start the season out. But for me, I love the Knicks. I think they're absolutely a regular season team because Tibbs plays everyone so hard. I'm less bullish on the 76ers. Embiid's not going to play back-to-backs. Paul George already had a knee scare. Maybe the Sixers are a playoff threat, but not so much regular season. So here's my first tip. I'm going to go New York Knicks for the Atlantic Division at $3.80 on TopSport, as you can see on the screen. And let's just keep moving it along, Tala, to the central.
I will add, sorry. I took a position on the Knicks to win the East as soon as that Mikal Bridges trade happened. I think we took $6, maybe, somewhere around there, around about the time of that trade. And I like it even better now that Cat's there. What I'm saying is I don't like them to win the division because now they've got less good players. To me, winning regular season games is more about having competent and good players. Cat is better than Julius Randle, let's say. So their ceiling is higher now, but they have less good players. So they're less, say you need to rest a guy for injury. Guys always get injured. You have to price that in. And their win line moved to like 54.5. So I don't really like them to win the division necessarily because they have to win the most regular season games. But I like them if you can get a price like 380, I think it's all right. Like, I think they have a high ceiling. If it all goes well, they have a high ceiling. So, yeah, I don't mind that.
I totally see what you're saying. So when we get to the playoffs, we can talk about how it might shake out. I'll actually say that could be my Eastern Conference Finals. Could be these two teams, the Celtics and Knicks. And that would be an amazing conference finals. I think that, yes, you sacrifice a bit of depth, but how deep are the Celtics as well? I actually think the Knicks could be a combination of top heavy, but Thibs plays the guys a lot of minutes in the regular season. And as long as no one gets injured, they could win a lot of regular season games too. But let's move to the Central Division, where there's a few good teams in here as well. Is there anything kind of standing out for a bet for you there?
Yeah, I've got a bet here. Well, we took the Cavaliers that are up $4, I believe. $2.87. It's probably not a bet there, but if you can get out to that $4 mark, you're looking at a really strong bet, in my opinion. Just in terms of when I look at that market, the top of the market is the Bucks. They've got Giannis. Like, let's say Giannis is a top 3 player in the league. And then the rest of the guys, if you make an arrow of guys' careers in the NBA, how they perform, they get to a certain age, and then it starts going like this, downwards. That's where Dame is, that's where Brook Lopez is, and that's where Chris Middleton is. Chris Middleton, he was playing well in the playoffs as well last season. He had off-season surgery on both his ankles. That's not good. Like, you don't have off-season surgery. That's not like performance-enhancing drugs, you know what I mean? That's like he'll have to ramp up back to try and get to a level of performance. And how old is he now? 30, You're thinking about these mid-30s guys, you probably, like, they've probably framed that market as if they were going to play like they were going to play last year. Or, at that level, and they're not. I don't think they are. But they did make one nice pickup in Gary Trent, so that was good. But The Cavs, on the other hand, they've got young guys coming through, really strong defense, and they've got a new coach, all right? If he can actually unlock them a little bit and find a way for them to play better offense, that'll be a juggernaut of a team, and they'll put up a ton of regular season wins because the defense is so good.
You know, I really agree. I don't really like Milwaukee this year, especially in the regular season. The issue I've got is that everybody is down on Milwaukee. It's like you said, everyone on this team is in their 30s, including Giannis now, who's 30, right? So, and Middleton's already going to start the season out. Trent Jr. is a handy pickup. I just feel like prime Giannis, I suppose, and if Dame can have a vintage Dame season, it's still a very dangerous team. But I'm with you. I think $4 would have been an outstanding price about the Cavs. You said new coach Kenny Atkinson, who got a bit of a raw deal in Brooklyn, actually got great results with what he was working with at the time. Of course, Donovan Mitchell choosing to stay in Cleveland, and you still got Garland there. I'm still a big believer in Evan Mobley. So absolutely the Cavs can challenge for the division. And then you've got Indiana in this division too, who made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And Halliburton had to nurse a couple of injuries through the year. Siakam didn't play a full season. You got Mathurin didn't play in the playoffs. He returns. What I know about Indiana is that they're going to be a really fun team to watch and play in plenty of shootouts with 250 plus points, which might also be favorable for people that like their same game multis and plenty of players to stuff the stat sheet. I didn't have any bet in that division, but I definitely like the Cavs as well as yourself, Tala.
I had one more bet there. I had a play on the Pistons. Very small, like not a large bet, just a small piece of change on them to win the division. Now, they were terrible. They were horrific. They were horrific last season, but they've addressed some areas of concern. They played a lot of players that just couldn't score the ball, and now they've brought in guys that can shoot a little bit. Fontecchio can shoot. Tim Hardaway can shoot and score. He's a gunner. Malik Beasley can shoot. So that helps them a lot. Those odds, when we bet it, it was like Detroit 300, Chicago 150, something like that. But if you can get them at that huge price, like let's say the Bucks just, crumble and then Detroit somehow win 40 games, it's like I'm less confident in that than I was in the Kings. Like there was like quite a straightforward path in my mind. But I was like, $300 to one. Like Cade Cunningham was the number one pick in the draft, and he's shown a lot. Who's to say he can't go to another level, right? I think he's got something in him, and he's coming to that sort of phase, fourth season in the league, where players can grow into like an all-star level. But yeah, very small,
Look,
something like
you don't need to say a lot. You don't need to say a lot to justify a 300 to 1. I think 180 to 1 there on Toppy, but shop around with those ones at mega odds that can fluctuate a little bit. And he's done it before for us, Tala. With the Kings 2 years ago, this would be a hell of an encore if you got that look. And also what you've said there, even if the Pistons don't win the division, it could be a good argument for playing their win total over, which is probably in the high 20s. And I like a few of those guys as well, Cunningham, Ivy, Thompson. So I think that's a nice little pickup there that they could be a little bit friskier. That this is the worst team in the league last year, and at one stage lost like 26 in a row. They'll definitely be a little bit better than that. As Ryan says, he's gone ahead and put a tiny bet on Detroit at 250 to 1. Jeff also saying 250 to 1 on Dabble. So thanks for checking the odds for us, guys. And yeah, be silly to doubt Tala at this point. One more division in the East to cover then, mate. The Southeast. What's your read here?
Yeah, I've got a play here. I'm with the Atlanta Hawks. We backed them at 15 to 1. Just in terms of when you look at that, with Trey at the helm, they've been a team that was capable of winning in the mid-40s, right? If I look at the Magic, they're definitely the favorite to me, but at $1.66, that's unders. They don't score the ball. If you've ever watched a Magic game, you're like, man, I got to turn this off. This is boring. Like, I don't want to see Paolo just they're pounding people trying to get to the free throw line, and he chucks it out to sprays it to someone, they shoot a brick. It's just rubbish. I actually like it when they put Mo Wagner in there and he gets some buckets. Like, that's a little bit of a bit of something. But if you're waiting for Mo Wagner to get you buckets, like, where's your team going? You know, like defense, that's half the time you don't have the ball. Let's say you rebound well and you turn them over. Okay, maybe you have the ball a little bit more than half the time. But then the rest of the time, what are you doing with it? Are you going to score the ball or not? And I really don't believe in them just in terms of their shooting. Their creation is okay, I guess. But yeah, so to me, that's like a false favorite at $1.66. I'd have them at, I don't know, $2. I could get around them if I could get $2 plus. Probably I'd get around the Magic, but the bet to me was the Hawks at 15. If you can get that, well, you don't need it to win very often to get paid handsomely. And Trey's already shown that he might be the best player in that division. And we've got to touch on the Heat. I think the Heat are pretty good. Like Jimmy Butler he won't play the whole season. Same deal, like you're based around Bam in that case, and then where's the offense coming from? If Jimmy's out, what's the offense doing? So that's why, yeah, I like the Hawks just at that big price, really.
That is a nice price. That's an interesting argument about best player in the division. Instantly, I'm thinking, Jimmy Butler's there, or Banchero could be for Orlando, but it's an argument. You would like Orlando if someone tipped them to you at like $11 to win this division, which I did a year ago. Unfortunately, $11, same team this year, and they're $1.67, right? The same team, everyone's probably a little bit better because most of the side was young and is now a year older. They did pick up KCP, which I think could be a shrewd addition as well. Look, I just spoke about Indiana, and if you look at win total projections and standing projections, you're going to probably see similarities in Orlando and Indiana. They're both probably predicted to finish around 5th, 6th, or 7th. Like if I put you on the spot, Tala, who finishes higher, Indy or Orlando?
Orlando, I think.
Orlando, right? It's pretty close. But the funny thing is they are stark contrasts of each other. So I just said Indy can put 130 on you, but they hate defending. The Magic's the team that's going to beat you by holding you under 100. Awesome defensive team. The key is the offense. I had that point as well. But if Franz Wagner can become a more efficient scorer and Paolo, then I see a pathway there. So I was a little less high on Atlanta, and I also have question marks on Miami. So I think Magic will win the division again and are on that progression to, if anything, potentially push a little bit closer towards the top 4 of the East than people might predict this year. Shall we swing it into the Western Conference, Tala? And can I begin with maybe the Northwest Division? I'll find the graphic and get your thoughts.
Yeah, let's do it.
Take
this
it
is
away.
A tough division, man. You got the Nuggets. Oh, sorry. This is the Southwest.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just finding the right graphic there.
OKC into firm favorite, and it's not a bet at $1.41 for me, but I really like the moves that they've made. They've got a juggernaut type regular season team. They added Alex Caruso. He'll help them a lot. Really good role player. They added Hartenstein, so that was sort of like a weakness of theirs. They didn't really have that type of front court player, but now they've got Chet and Hartenstein, so they can play however they want, really, now. Who else? Yeah, like they're going to be hard to beat, very hard to beat. The Nuggets are the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic, you don't want to bet against that guy. So maybe if I had to make a play, I wouldn't take the $1.41 about the Thunder. I'd be leaning more towards, the Timberwolves with Edwards, and now they picked up a couple of guys. I think that was more of a money-saving move. But then, you've got the Nuggets. I don't think the other teams in the division will win too much, but yeah, it's tough for me. I do have a bet, actually. Russell Westbrook, sixth man of the year. That was paying 26-1. I think he'll help the Nuggets a lot. So they're a good team. They'll win games. That's normally one factor. Second part is if the guy's going to put up numbers. Russ normally puts up numbers. And the third is I think he might get to play because Jamal Murray didn't look good at all in the Olympics. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses 20 games. He's not exactly an Iron Man, so to speak. So, yeah, I've taken a bet on Russ.
Well, speaking of OKC, so this is the other team I picked for the division last year, and you know, great pick at $7.50 if I do say so myself, $1.40 now. But I like to point out any outlier odds. The Thunder are still $2.15 to win this division on Ladbrokes. That's a massive difference. You know, $1.40 in one place, $2.15 somewhere else. You got a wry smile on your face, Tala. I'm actually going to go in.
What's both up to? What's he doing there? He's falling asleep.
Yeah, our mate Alex could be asleep at the wheel there, but maybe he knows what he's doing because I'm going to tip someone else in this division. But on OKC, I reckon they're going to be awesome. So I'm actually wearing the OKC jersey tonight. It's close to the same team that was top of the West last year. And you deal Giddey and you get Caruso, which is an awesome compliment to the team, exactly what they needed, I think. And then on top of getting Hartenstein, and it's another side where all the best players have their best years ahead of them. So everybody arguably should be even better. It's kind of like we just talked about Milwaukee. As a bettor, I don't want to have all my positions be completely aligned with what everybody else is thinking because you're not going to get your great value there. And just like everyone is down on the Bucks, everyone is on to OKC this year. So that's the problem. You know what's scary, though? The amount of draft picks they've got up their sleeve, as well as how good they currently are. And that bodes very well for the future for Oklahoma City. But I want to note that as well because you just never know if a really gun player out there becomes disgruntled. OKC is the type of team that could package a king's ransom and upgrade the side now. I mean, they used a first to get Caruso, but you just don't know what they're capable of. Like I haven't heard this rumor anywhere at all, just came across my mind. But I was thinking about if Milwaukee just had a terrible season, you know, could OKC be like, we'll give you the farm for Giannis because you're not going anywhere. Like that might be extreme, but there are superstars out there that you don't think are going to be on the move. But once something starts to spiral, teams make drastic decisions. So I suppose that's an upside about Oklahoma City, right? And SGA, Williams, these are gun young players that I'll probably talk a bit more about later. Chet as well is only going to get better. I could definitely see the Nuggets dropping off a little bit this regular season. I don't mind the Westbrook shout just because if he's reinvigorated, and I hope that's the case, and I am a Nuggets fan, but I don't see that as moving the needle for me. When I look at Joker and touch wood, he's been incredibly durable, but I could almost see the Joker scaling back a little bit. I just don't quite see him in the MVP conversation. Maybe his output, his minutes, his games are just a little lower just to save it, to give it all in the playoffs because we know this team relies on the Joker a hell of a lot in the playoffs. Murray had a shocker at the Olympics for Canada. I don't know how much I should read into that. MPJ is a little bit like Jamal Murray. They're both probably overpaid, but you had to do it from Denver's point of view to keep those guys, and it was worth it because they won the title. But Denver has lost depth because they've lost, KCP, Bruce Brown the year before, right from the title team. So your depth gets a little thinner. So I agree that OKC should be the favorites for the Northwest, right? And again, 215 on Ladbrokes. Maybe it doesn't last. But I'm going to fade the groundswell of money for the Thunder. And I'm going to take – I was shocked when you said you don't see other teams in this division doing a lot of winning. What about the Minnesota Timberwolves? I'm going to tip them now, 440, right? Okay, Tala's putting his hands up in apology. So I'll give you a chance to talk about the Timberwolves.
Was the Jazz and the Trailblazers had in the
Jazz
20s.
and the Blazers.
23 games. Yeah, 25 games each.
So Jazz and Blazers won't do a lot of winning. Timberwolves, I believe, will. And I'm tipping them at 440. I believe that is also with TopSport. Put the odds up again. Yeah, 440 on Toppy to win the Northwest Division. Okay, we know that that Minnesota traded Karl Anthony Towns, but Tala said himself earlier that he actually thinks that weakens the Knicks as a regular season team. So then the fact that the T-Wolves have gotten DDV and Randall may not be a downgrade in the regular season. Those guys can both contribute a lot in regular season games. maybe it's a better fit because there was always that awkward fit of Cat next to Gobert, right? So I think I get contribution from the new guys in that play with a chip on their shoulder. Naz Reid gets more opportunity. And Ant-Man, talking about sometimes you just back a team because they've got the best player in the division. Look, I suppose I shouldn't dethrone the Joker, but what I will say is Anthony Edwards is a super duper star. Finch is a great coach. And Cat was actually hurt for the final third or quarter of the season last year, and they still got the 2 seed. So 440 will be another official division play for me with Minnesota. Yes, I picked 2 teams last year, and they both won at 11s and 7s. This year, I think I've got 3 division plays. I just want to say, let's be realistic. I'm not expecting to win them all. I'll be happy to probably win one of these 3 because they're all plus odds. So I'm just saying, don't go crazy on my tips because of the recent results, because we'd have to admit it's probably been unsustainable. Did you kind of forget to share any thoughts on the Timberwolves? Was there anything you wanted to say about that team, Tala?
No, I agree exactly. What I agree like 100% with you. What you've just said. Like, to me, having a good regular season team is more about having more good players than having 1 or 2 excellent players. Because whenever those players are out, you don't have anything to replace them, and inevitably players miss games. Like, that's just how the NBA is nowadays. And the name that I heard for the Thunder, Kawhi Leonard. That's the name that I've heard on some podcasts or maybe on the internet. Might be rubbish, but I also took bets on Shea for the MVP because I think they'll have the best regular season record, and Shea top point scorer. I think those were 2. I think around about the $7 mark, close to 10. But just when I look at the team,
let us know now. We're gonna do awards later, so you don't have to fire all your bullets for the awards. But look, Kawhi Leonard, like that. See, that makes a lot of sense too, because the Clippers. We're gonna move to the Pacific Division. Let's do it right now. I don't think the Clips are going anywhere. I don't know how much Kawhi's got left to give, but maybe he has got a postseason push in him. And you do feel like, one more wing on this OKC team. They're already going to be a big problem for the West, that's for sure. But the Pacific Division, Tala, I think is arguably the most open in the whole league. So where do you want to go first with this one?
Yeah, I think you can probably chuck a line through the Clippers. And I've taken a position on the Suns, $3.20. Same, I was high on them last year in the playoffs. Remember that? And you were with the Timberwolves, and I was like, "Nah, Suns are great. They're going to do a number on them." And then the Timberwolves had them well held. The defense was just too much. They just kept them down, and offensively they did enough. So I'm still with the Suns.
I did pick the Suns to win the West a year ago. Well, I got off them a little bit before the playoffs, but I definitely saw some similar things as you last year.
Yeah, I do like the moves that they've made in the offseason. So they brought in 2 really quality point guards, and that was an issue. Their biggest weakness really was creating offense, like playing team ball, creating offense. And they brought in 2 point guards that, interestingly, this is an interesting stat, they have the highest assist to turnover ratio. Now, that can be a little bit misleading. Like if they just bring the ball up and just play safe, you know what I mean? They're not truly creating offense, but it just goes to show that they can control the ball, and then that's something that the Suns were terrible at last year. So I like the Suns. I'm laying the Lakers. Like, I think they're done. Like, I would have put a line through them because they still got Anthony Davis and LeBron. They have some draft capital, like the Thunder, what you mentioned. They might have some avenues to improve that way, but I don't see 40-year-old LeBron and 32-year-old Anthony Davis playing like 90% of their games again. Colin, that's a top. If you were ranking the outcomes of how many games they was going to play, you can price it in. They're not. It's pretty unlikely. It's possible. If they play, then they'll hit the over. But if they don't, they won't. Who are they going to sub on? Bronny James Jr. and D'Lo? Give me a break, bro. That's a bad team. And who else? Kings are all right. They made some moves.
Let's begin with the Suns. So I would say I got them wrong last year because they were my favorite team in the West before the season. Now KD's a year older. I'm just not as high on the Phoenix, but Durant still looks incredible in the preseason. Maybe it was Beal that was underwhelming, but Booker should still be awesome. You got Coach Bud in there. That could be a game changer. And while I don't love them as much this year, I definitely don't write Phoenix off. And you mentioned they didn't look like they had any moves to make, and you had like Beal playing as a point guard, but now you get Tyus Jones and Monte Morris, and you got them at bargains and brought them in. So I think the Suns will win this division and can challenge for the title. The Kings are an interesting one because you got the core of Fox, Murray, Sabonis. What's DeRozan got left? In my mind, probably not much, but you never know. And they're a side looking to make a trade. So if you get another piece in there, do the Kings get interesting? Of course, I think they finished with the second best record the year you picked them 2 years ago to win the division. So the Lakers are extremely intriguing to me. I know people get sick of the Lakers because they're so popular historically. They've got the most nationally televised games this year, and they are $1.90 to even make the playoffs. So while they're talking about that they're playing for a championship, it's 50-50 if they can even finish in the top 8. But to be honest, I'm happy that we get to see the Lakers a lot and talk about them because let's enjoy LeBron while we can. He turns 40 in December, though, to your point. And LeBron and AD actually played the vast majority of games last year, but that's hard to replicate. And they both went to the Olympics as well. So I'm really torn on this, but if I had to bet which way it goes, like $1.90, and let us know in the comments as well, guys, I would tip the Lakers make the playoffs. And for me, it could go badly too with JJ Redick coming in and has as much NBA coaching experience as you or I. But then again, that was the same as Steve Kerr. And I'm not expecting a Steve Kerr first season taking over the Warriors type results, but maybe a poor man's version. JJ will get him shooting more threes, playing a more modern style. I could see like LeBron being energized by playing with his son. Just the fact that his son's like on the team means he's kind of happy, not expecting much from Bronny. And AD, is AD past his prime, or can AD expand his game and actually shoot threes, and can he make them at a decent clip, which I haven't seen for a number of seasons. I sort of give the Lakers a chance of, and when I say give them a chance, like I can't see them coming out of the West, but making the playoffs, yeah, I could see that. Well, the other team we didn't really talk about in this division is the Warriors, who could be a little bit better this year too. I can see someone like Kuminga stepping up. Steph is still all class. I feel like Wiggins was totally off last year. And then the Clippers, I don't want to completely write them off because they've got a good coach and good depth, but with Paul George gone and Kawhi already questionable, and the fact that those players know their championship window has closed, because I thought the Clippers could contend in the last couple of years if everyone was healthy in April. They haven't been, and now it seems like that has passed them by.
I think, couple of points. I'm pretty confident about this Lakers bet. My boss is a big Lakers man, so he bet me family dinner at Giuliano's. Man, I can already taste the steak and the seafood and all of the all-you-can-eat buffet dessert. Like, I'm serious. Like, 44.5. Yeah. I really like the under there for the Lakers. But like you say, if everything works out injury-wise, they probably cruise. They're still not getting out of the West, like you say, but they are a playoff team for sure because LeBron and AD are that good. I just have real questions about them playing. The Warriors, that's actually my favorite team. It was very remiss of me not to mention them, but yeah, Steph, that's another player like LeBron, like you mentioned. I'm just so glad that we get to see him play. Whether the team's any good, I'm not sure, but we're really glad that we get to see him play. I think Wiggins' dad passed away or something. Maybe that had some influence on why he was so rubbish and couldn't make any shots. And now he might be getting back to it. Shoot if you win, play some defense. But Clippers, man, chuck a line through them. Trust me, like they're done. Kawhi just had another surgery, man. If you told me Kawhi's starting at game 1, he's going to give you 60 games, fine, good. They might go. But if he's going to start halfway through the season, where are they going to be by then? Exactly. They'll be so far back, they'll have to make a big charge.
I haven't heard anyone mention Kawhi in trade rumors, but it makes sense to me. So who's second in this division behind the Suns for you?
Good question. Not the Kings. Not the Lakers. Not the Clippers. It's got to be the Warriors.
So I was going to ask you that.
I think the Suns might be like 5. I think the Suns might be like 5 games better than the next 5 to 10.
Yes.
They could win 50 plus. That's the only 53-win team I see there. The rest are sort of like, the Kings, like you say, if DeMar's got something in the tank, maybe they win 50, but probably not.
The Kings' best players could still have great seasons ahead of them. The Warriors and Lakers, I do put them right in that same category. Their best is behind them, unfortunately. And those guys on any given night can still be great, like Steph or LeBron or AD. But for a whole regular season, I don't want to write them off yet. I feel like they are. Well, and I think both those teams, like Lakers and Warriors, are both around even money, make or miss playoffs. So if you have an opinion on that, you can bet into that. And of course, health is going to play a massive part. Now, appreciate everyone's who's tuning in with us. I wanted to say at the start of the show, there are like so many markets you can bet as well, like team markets, but then all the player ones, all the statistical. We're going to do our best to touch on as many of the main ones as we can, but let us know in the comments just what your favorite NBA futures bets are that you're taking. Let us know why if you've got strong reasoning, and we'll try and include some comments on the screen. We've got one more division to cover, Tala. So talk to me about the Southwest, which is home to the current Western Conference reigning champs.
Man, awesome. Oh, this is the wrong. There we go. The Grizzlies, the Mavericks, the Pelicans, the Rockets, and the Spurs. This is a division that I'm really interested to watch because, you've got Victor Wembanyama, you've got the Houston Rockets, like a frisky squad coming through, a young team. You've got Zion Williamson on the Pelicans, you've got Luka Doncic, Klay Thompson moved in, and then you've got Ja Morant coming back on the Grizzlies. Man, like this is a division that I actually want to watch the games. Got all that talent coming through. That's going to be some entertaining stuff to get around. But in terms of a bet, I'm with the Grizzlies to win the division. Ja Morant's coming back. They've got Marcus Smart they're working into the lineup. Jaren Jackson, he was Defensive Player of the Year a couple of seasons back. And also Zach Edey, a big center that they can pair with Jaren Jackson. Now, the early returns in the preseason have been very promising for Edey. He looks like the type of guy that they could use and really fit into their scheme. The early returns for Klay on the Mavericks have been terrible, but form is temporary, class is permanent. I think he's going to make a lot of shots and help the Mavericks as well. So I would have them ranked above the Memphis Grizzlies in terms of how many wins, project them to get. But I think at the price, the chance that the Memphis Grizzlies overtake them is pretty good.
And do you know when you bet that, what price you got?
Maybe a month or so ago. I think I posted it up on the TryPods. It might have been around $4 mark on Tab, I believe. Tab were a little bit.
Well, mate, I am in total agreement with you on this division. So I am going to fade the Mavs a little bit. Klay Thompson, new location suddenly means he's going to be able to make shots again. I'm not sure. I feel like he was kind of washed. I'm sad to say it. Just not the same player that, ripped Oklahoma City's heart out of their chest in that Game 6 in 2016.
No. He's not that player. He's not that player.
Unfortunately, we're not seeing that player come back. But the thing about the Mavs as well, en route to the NBA Finals, they won on the road every series. I think they won multiple road games every series. And to me, that team can say to themselves, it doesn't matter what our seed is. As long as we get into the finals healthy, if we've got a healthy Luka and Kyrie, we can beat anyone. We can take any team apart over a 7-game series. Now, I know that PJ Washington, Lively, they'll be improved, but it is a challenging division. And the fact that the Mavs made the finals, I want to go against them, as opposed to the Grizzlies, who will be back. They've had a shocking season last year, but Ja was suspended. You mentioned Edey, which is a great pickup there, and his favorite for Rookie of the Year. We'll talk about soon. But what about Brandon Clark? Did his ACL. He's back now as well. And so I'm going to back the Grizzlies at 375, so a little lighter than the fours you might have picked up a month ago, which I think was a great bet. And as I put it up on screen now, I mean, it's 350. No, it's 3. I could have sworn I saw 350 on Toppy, 335 on Toppy, but 375 on Ladbrokes and Eds I saw. for the Memphis Grizzlies. And let's go back to last year, because it's not going to happen every season where I tip, multiple division winners, hit 100% of them, and it's $7s and $11. But if you look at my rationale, my theory about it last year, I went against the reigning conference champions. So last year, the conference champions were the Nuggets. I took OKC to roll them. The Heat, I took the Magic to have a better regular season. I'm doing the same this year. I've taken Knicks over Celtics, and I'm having a shot with Grizzlies over Mavs. So Ja was suspended for 25 games to start the year last year, then got hurt after he did return. He's in his physical prime, though. Maybe people have forgotten how impactful Ja can be. And you mentioned Smart, Bain, Triple J. Jenkins is a great coach. Picking up Edie, right? Clark coming back. So it makes a lot of sense to me. The Pelicans are a wild card, because I look at the Pelicans and go, I love the DeJounte Murray trade. I really think that's going to be a stealth great trade. And I look at an awesome core there of Murray, Ingram, Zion, Herb Jones. And I think that can be one of the strongest starting fives or, best 4 players in the league. But everything I hear about New Orleans is that they're shopping Ingram, and obviously they don't really have a proper center, and they're not settled on that lineup. So I would actually just like to roll a ball out there and play with that team. And I think there's a high upside on that team, but it just depends how they all click, I suppose. I wouldn't write the Pelicans off is what I'm getting at. And then the Rockets and Spurs, I think it's fair to say they're probably both a year away at least, but they'll be frisky, won't they? Wembanyama is so good, and he's got CP3 there now. They didn't have a proper point guard a year ago. That's our chat for all 6 divisions, Tala. But have you got anything to kind of put a bow on that?
Oh man, you nailed it. Like you say, the Pelicans. I didn't touch on the Pelicans, but like you say, a lot of talent. That 5-man lineup, if you include Trey Murphy III instead of a center, is just insane. That's a lot of talent that they could just put out there on the floor if they went DeJounte, Ingram, Zion, Trey Murphy, and Herb Jones. That's boom with CJ McCollum as a 6-man. But I don't know. They'll probably get murdered inside because they got no center.
That's a small team, but that's a hard team to stop.
Yeah.
Now, a question there from Marcus, which is a great question. When I tip divisions, am I talking about the percent that they would win the division, or am I just picking my favorite team to win it? So I think I've said multiple times, even in the Northwest, the Thunder should be the favorite for that division. So I'm not picking the Timberwolves because I think they will win it. I'm picking them because at $4.40 is too high to me. Relative to, in my mind, I think the Timberwolves could win that division 1-3 quite comfortably. So I'm going to go for the team that I think is the best value. And I'm trying to pick teams that maybe not everyone else has their eye on, but ultimately it's all about the price there. And quite often I'm looking for a soft favorite, where everyone's high on them, but maybe there's reason they could regress. Although in that particular example, I think OKC is going to be really good as well. I just can't really justify on TopSport, for example, $1.40 plays $4.40. And those teams won within 1 or 2 games of each other last year. Now, speaking of TopSport, I've got a clip from Tristan where he's going to let us know where the money has been so far for this upcoming NBA season. So have a little drinks remission if you want, Tala, because we've got about a 90-second clip from Tristan to tell us where the action has been.
G'day everyone, it's Tristan Merlehan here from TopSport, and we've finished the rugby league and the AFL season now. Obviously some international footy on the horizon, but we've got the NBA only a week away from starting, and that's always a very exciting competition. And there's, as always, been plenty of action in the lead up. The championship winner, we've laid a couple of bets on some rougher runners. Indiana, we laid at 50-1. We've gone 50s into 40s. Someone's had 1,600 on them at 51, so a little bit of confidence in the camp. Phoenix, we've laid from 31 into 23. No massive individual wages, but just solid, trickling of money on the way through. And then Boston, they're just losing for us at the moment. It's a pretty similar trajectory to what we saw last year, where just your rank and file punters, your 50s, your 100s here, and it's all seemed to be adding up. We've laid every single bet at $4, so we haven't laid anything off that price. So it'll be interesting what happens to that price as we get deeper into the season. There wasn't too many bets outside on the back of the free agency. Obviously, we're a little bit cautious around that time, but obviously there's a big move towards the Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers. They both firmed up a little bit over the while. And then just having a look at some of the other markets we've got up, we've got the MVP where we've laid a few rougher runners, your likes of Harden and Morant. But probably the two they've come for, and also Zion, we've laid at 80s into 67. But SGA's been very well back, $5.15 to $5. He's our worst way. And then Wemba for the Spurs. He's been back from $21 into 15. It'll be a big effort to win that in his second season. But there's a few people out there thinking he can certainly do it. Just the other markets that we've laid a little bit of action on, the under and over season wins. Probably the best supported have been Golden State, 43.5 up to 44. We've laid a decent chunk of action there. And also the unders in the Dallas, where that's gone 50.5 down to 49.5. So a bit of action there supporting the Dallas unders. So we've got our normal market offering up. We're going to look to roll as many same game multi options in as possible, and looking forward to a big season coming up where there's always plenty of action and plenty of games. Good luck over the season, and of course, gamble responsibly.
Thanks, Tristan. So talking about the moves in the off-season, of course, Philly got Paul George in free agency, and then the Cat trade broke about a week ago. And that makes sense. They got some money for that. And Tristan touched on awards. MVP is one of my favorite markets to talk about, but I'll save that. We'll go through a few of the others. Tala, I've got probably the 4 or 5 major awards I want to throw at you. You may have a couple others. Like I didn't put everything in there, but if you've got a bet on anything else, let me know. But why don't we begin with Rookie of the Year? Have you got anything on this market? Just let me know where your thoughts are at. It'll take me a while to find the graphic, just because in my display it's so tiny I can't read the names.
That's all right, bro. We do have a bet here, Tips with T. I sent it up to the TryPod as well, and on Telegram, Instagram, all of that, everywhere. Tips with T. We took a bet on Zach Edey at $6 plus, for the reason that the Memphis Grizzlies, since Jaren Jackson has been with the team, they've liked to pair him with like a standard big man with size. If you think of Valanciunas, Steven Adams, and I think Edey could fill that role, right? And the other rookies, they don't have, and when I look at it, they don't have like a real clear path to playing. Like they might play or they might not, but we're going to have to find out. Whereas Edey, I'm pretty sure he's going to play at least half a game for as long as he stays healthy for the whole season. And he'll be next to Jar. Jar can set him up for some nice, easy baskets. In the preseason, it looked like he had enough game where he could actually demand touches. Like he's good enough where they could throw it to him and he can just hook shot, dunk. Like he can exploit mismatches. So that was really promising. Not only will he get shots that he just should, like rubbish, like a clean-up man, but he might be able to get his own as well, which means he might score 12 to 15 points a game with 8 rebounds. I could see that. That doesn't seem outrageous. And then when you look at the other guys, can they do that? Probably not. They might not even get on. That's my rookie of the year.
With this award, I think I've picked it in the group 3 years in a row, but I have missed it the last 2 years. But what I will say, the last 2 years, my second choice did win, and that's because it was Banchero followed by Wembanyama, and I didn't want to take the favorite in the market. And if I had taken the favorite, I could potentially be on a 5-year winning streak with this award, right? But you've got the favorite there in Edey. I get it. Anticipated to have a big role on a good team and looks really good so far. Now, Rookie of the Year is one of these awards where it doesn't matter that much about team success. It's really more about getting a big role and the opportunity for big stats. Look, an obvious one for me is Risashev for the Hawks. He was picked first. He'll be given an opportunity to succeed. And I've seen him paying around $10. But that feels fairly obvious in a wide-open Rookie of the Year race to just take the number 1 pick. So I'm looking a little bit deeper, and I'm going Buzelis for the Bulls from the G League because they're really high on this rookie. I think he gets an opportunity to play. He's definitely in the rotation. He is a wing or a small ball 4. If he can shoot, he will have a big role in this team and get every chance to develop, because I don't think the Bulls are going to do much this year. And there is extra upside there if someone like Zach LaVine was traded. So Uzelis, who is actually a Chicago native, but also I think he's got Lithuanian parents, $11 on Dabble was the best price, and that will be my Rookie of the Year pick. Most improved, Tala. This is a really hard one to pick, although a year ago we did our season preview show, and I got to shout out Coops, who commented on the pod and said his favorite pick for the season was Tyrese Maxey, and he was long odds for most improved, but it made a lot of sense. The key for most improved player is not actually so much an enhanced game as it is an enhanced role or opportunity. I've got a pick in this market, but throw it to you first. Have you got anything in this one?
No, nothing. I don't have a play.
You don't have most improved? All right, well, I'll take it away then as I find the market on the screen. So Wembanyama's the favourite to me, which I always find funny when like a second-year player is favourite for most improved, because second-year players should improve more than anyone. But that feels too obvious to me. Wemby could be in the MVP discussion, so I suppose there's an argument there, but it was already bloody good last year. The guy I'm going to point to is actually second shortest on the list with Toppy, Jalen Williams. But I have found him as high as $17, again, with our mate Alexi at Ladbrokes and Ned. So $17 about J-Dub. He is a great young player who will get an increased usage now that Giddey is not on the Thunder. And you already saw increased excellent production in the non-Giddey games last year for Jalen Williams. OKC is going to win a bunch of games this year, and I would not be shocked when people are picking the All-Stars. When you're looking at if OKC is doing really well, Shea is going to make it, but whether there's a second All-Star on this team, it could be Jalen Williams. And the profile for a player that wins most improved is often that guy who breaks in to the All-Star arena. So at $17, I reckon that's juicy. I wanted to briefly touch on Defensive Player of the Year, Tala. You got anything here? I mean, Wemby's around $1.50 favorite.
Yeah. Actually, man, we'll touch on Rookie of the Year. I selected Wemby for that. Let me take the victory lap, man.
Last year you did. Yeah, and you said that was your favorite player of the year. And it was a double
because it was plus money.
$2. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, let's have a look, man.
Have you got anything for Defensive Player of the Year?
I think it'll be really hard for them to beat Wemby with those counting stats. But if I had to look, I probably wouldn't bet it just because of the injury risk. It was like $1.10 or something stupid. Like you couldn't bet it. You could take something about Triple J, I guess, at $9, but I don't have a bet there. No.
I feel like that graphic disappeared on me. I had so many graphics, and I knew one of them was missing, but I couldn't tell which one. Anyway, I can tell you now, guys, that Wemby's about $1.47 on Toppy. I am going to sort of tip this out. I guess grade me if you want, right? I'm going to actually give you two tips. I'm going to say Wembanyama, Defensive Player of the Year, at $1.67 on Sportsbet is still juicy. Now, that is very short odds for a future, but if you can multi that with anything else that's resulting mid-year next year, I really think that should be $1.50 or shorter. Wemby was second in the award last year, and I just can't see Gobert getting it again. I really feel like you're just betting on Wembanyama to get through a full year. He's going to lead the league in blocks, and he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year, like I'm pretty sure. So $1.67, I'm going to throw something totally out there, and I'm not going to explain it here, but I like Arsenal to win the Premier League, and I'm kind of looking at that results a similar time of year. You multi that with Wemby. That's something out there. If people like any of the division bets I've shared, I don't know if Sportsbet will let you multi like a division winner with a Defensive Player of the Year. Have a go. You got something on that, Tyler?
Yeah. Can our mate Tristan put something together for us, man? Because I'm pretty. We both like the Grizzlies, right? And I don't mind Wemby if we can get $1.67. Will he give those markets to us combined?
Well, that's the thing. Like Wemby's $1.47 on Toppy. He's $1.67 on Sportsbet. So I'm kind of picking off that outlying price, and I'm saying grab that if you're watching us tonight, because I think that's too high. So usually when I get Tristan to look after us, is if Toppy is already top of the market with something, then I can say, hey, you guys have this opinion. Let's build off of that. And I have done that for my season multi, which I'm going to share. I don't just pick purely what I like. I pick where I know Toppy will give us the best price as well. Now, having said all that, I'm pretty sure that Wemby wins Defensive Player of the Year, as long as he doesn't get hurt. I'm also going to throw out a long shot in the market as well. Evan Mobley at $23 on Ladbrokes. I can see a path there. I really like Evan Mobley as a player, and new coach. He has the ability to have an outstanding year. And my advice would be you could play the pair of those. You could play the $1.67 on Wemby, and then your little bit of a saver could be on Mobley. Now, speaking of a new coach in Cleveland, have you got anything in the Coach of the Year award that you would have a bet on?
Quinn Snyder. I took a bet on Quinn Snyder and Kenny Atkinson. Yeah. So, because I think, like I said, I think the Cavs will be good, man. And then he's a new coach, so he might get some of that credit, especially if he can get their offense moving a little bit better than it was already. And they have some pieces, so I bet it at a much better price than that, double maybe. But I don't mind it at 13. It's probably all right still.
And what price did you get around Quinn Snyder?
I think it was something like Atkinson was in the 20s and Snyder was in the 30s.
So you tipped Atlanta at $15 to win the division. I'm just wondering what's the better bet there. I probably reckon Atlanta division is a better bet, because I think Atlanta could win the division and he still doesn't get Coach of the Year. Just like Orlando a year ago won the division at 11s, but he didn't get Coach of the Year there. As opposed to if Atlanta, I suppose the counter argument is Atlanta could come second in the division, but still have a great improvement. It makes a lot of sense that you're looking at Atlanta as that under the radar team that had a really bad season last year, because Coach of the Year is another way of saying most improved team. So the coach gets a lot of credit. Yeah, you've got to pick a team that makes a bump in the win column. I've got a tip in this one, and I'm actually going to tip the same guy I tipped last year. And it's a lower price because he's not under the radar anymore. But I tipped Jamal Mosley on the Magic at 27-1 last year. And the Magic did really overachieve. As I just mentioned, no one was picking him to win that division. And Mosley was into single-figure odds late in the year. I just think that Mosley will be in the mix again this year. You might say, well, the Magic can't make as great of a leap because I think they already finished 6th in the East last season. But when you're taking, and I found Mosley at, I think it's $13 or $12. He is on Toppy, right? When you're taking like a 12-1 shot, you're talking about the possibility that the Magic could be a top 3 team in the East. And I just don't know if you will, apart from injuries aside, I don't know if the Celtics will necessarily dominate. The Cavs, the Bucks are vulnerable as well, I think, and sometimes teams, it just doesn't go to plan. So it wouldn't shock me if the Magic are really in the mix at the top of the East. And then I could see the storyline around Mosley being that there's been a progression really for the last 3 seasons. If you look at 2 years ago, the Magic really came on the back half of the year. Last year, great year. If the Magic take a step again, I don't think Mosley will be downgraded because he hasn't done as well this year relative to last year. I think he'll get the credit for the overall development. And when I look at the roster, you talked about the Magic being boring to watch, but it's like Suggs and Anthony, they're such good defensive guards. And then Jonathan Isaac is such a game changer defensively that I really think the Magic could be the number 1 defense in the league, and that the voters could take kindly to that. Thibodeau is the favorite, and I like the Knicks this year, and they will win a lot of regular season games, I believe. So there's an obvious pick there too. But if you get a good price about Tibbs, close to $10. I don't think that's a bad bet at all. Have you got anything else, Coach of the Year, Tala, or do you want to start sharing? You did say MVP SGA, but feel free to kind of dive into that a little further.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, man. If you look at his advanced metrics, I shared some of them on the TryPod. They're really good, like in terms of how much he contributes to winning. And touched on earlier, man, they've got a really deep team. It's all set up around him offensively. So I think he'll be a big driver of what they're doing. And they've got really good defenders and just sort of like complementary players for him to do a lot, put up big numbers and get a lot of credit. So that's why I like Shai Gilgeous. And I've gone out wide with Zion. I think Tristan mentioned it. Someone had taken a bet with him 50 on at 80s or something like that. But just his upside is tremendous. Like if he plays at his peak for a full season, which he's yet to do, but we're getting a huge price about him. But if he does that, then he's one of the best players in basketball. His force near the rim is like Shaq and Giannis. That's what the numbers are like. Those are the only guys that put up numbers like that when Zion's really firing. It's hard to compare him to other players, but those are like all-time sort of, that's his level that he can get to. So if they're going to give a big price about it, I'll have a few small dollars on that and a proper bet on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
I like both of those picks, mate. I think there's a high variance, high range of outcomes for the Pelicans. As I said before, I wouldn't be shocked if they were top 4 as well in the West. But I also could see it going the other way. But when you're taking a really long shot, if the Pelicans are winning a lot of games, it means Zion's healthy and he's probably dominating. And there's a number of good players on that team, but it would still be viewed as Zion's team. Now, that is important because to be MVP, you have to be regarded as the undisputed best player on your team. Otherwise, I think any team that kind of has multiple all-stars, you very rarely see the MVP on that side. And so how I pick the MVP is kind of like process of elimination. So I'm going to knock off a few guys and say, Jason Tatum is the right age. He's a gun player, but his team's considered too good. He wasn't even considered the best team player on his own team in the finals. So he can't win MVP, I don't think, when he's got Jaylen Brown there, unless Brown got injured or something, right? But Brunson would have been an interesting pick, but I feel like now you've got Cat. It's a pretty stacked side. So while Brunson could technically be the best player on the team that's top of the East, I'm going to eliminate him. I'm going to eliminate Embiid because he's got help with other fellow All-Stars of George and Maxey and has said that he'll be focusing on the playoffs. And I actually am going to eliminate Giannis because I'm just not as high on the Bucks this year. And Dame Lillard is there as well. I should not put a line through Giannis, but I'm just not. He's not going to be my pick. Then I'm going to look at the Joker, and I'm also going to rule him out because I think they may be the third best team in that division. I also think when you've already won 3 MVPs, you've got to keep raising the bar to possibly command the votes a 4th time. It's just going to be tough. And I'll chuck the odds up again. Like Joker's like the favorite. I think it's a little bit too short. But mind you, I said that before he won his 3rd as well. So it could define me. He's an outstanding player. I just have a sense that Joker might not utterly dominate for 82 games this year. So the other favorite is Luka Doncic. And absolutely could win it, and he showed what he's capable of in last year's playoffs. Well, a lot of us have known for a while. I'm sure I've picked Luka for MVP in a past season as well. But I've questioned on this show how much regular season success the Mavs may have this year. And again, that being a tough division, that's the other key ingredient. You've got to be a superstar. You've got to put up awesome numbers, but your team does have to win a lot of games. Pretty much always got to be top 2 in your conference. So I've put a line through quite a few names, mate, and the name that leaves me with at the top of the list is going to be SGA, just like yourself. $6 on Bet365 and on Dabble, I think is a great bet. You've already bet it. Tell me if you know what odds you grabbed.
It was 6 or 7s.
Yeah, you've done very well getting in a bit earlier, where most of us, like I've just come off the league season. I'm only really fully turning my attention here, but it goes to show that if you're on the ball in the off season, you can get some outstanding prices. Now, to clarify, yes, I have tipped the Wolves at over T-Wolves at over 440 to win that division. But don't forget, last year, OKC and Minnesota finished 1 and 2. I could see that happening again. I think OKC wins 55 plus games. Shea has a great team, like you just said. He's in that sweet spot where his team is awesome, but none of his teammates are considered like quote unquote stars or superstars. So the credit goes to Shea. He lives at the free throw line, scores efficiently, gets the ball when the game is on the line, finished second in voting last year, is on that trajectory. So $6, I think, is the best pick for MVP. You had a flyer. I've got a couple of extra flyers for MVP that I want to share out as well. I reckon you'll like these. Tell me where I'm wrong with this. Anthony Edwards, $17 on 365. So that seems way too high to me for similar reasons to SGA, that it is clearly his team, but it's still a deep squad that gives him the ability to win a lot of games. And everyone loves Ant-Man. He's starring in the new Netflix doc. I just can't understand why he'd be that high, because we saw brilliance out of him last year, and I can't understand why he wouldn't be even better this year given his age. And I've got a super long shot as well at 100 to 1. It's not quite your Kings tip, but I also had a 200 to 1 Origin player of the series this year that came so close, but that's another story that I'm still not over. But look, I'll go for 100 to 1 here. I'll see if you can guess him before I say his name, right? But I'm a huge fan of this guy. He runs the show for his team. He plays for an Eastern Conference team that could have a great regular season, maybe could even win their division, and plays on a team that scores a lot of points every night. So therefore, he's always going to have massive stats.
Halliburton.
Yes. I didn't feel like I gave you enough there to pick that. But Tyrese Halliburton, to me, played with a bit of an injury last year, but was still so awesome at the beginning of the year. So I'm just looking at his ability. The way that Halliburton commands that Indiana offense is just so cool. Like, you talk about a great assist to turnover ratio. He's that guy, but he also shoots at a great clip, makes everyone better. And Halliburton may lead the league in assists this year. So it's another one where it's 100 to 1. I don't need to make a long case about it. But what if Indiana, just on the back of making the conference finals last year, shot up there and was a top 2 seed or something like that? Everyone would respect that Halliburton would be the reason why. So what do you make of those picks as well, Ed? Ant-Man and Halliburton.
I can't really argue against Ant-Man. Like, he's a very popular player. If you watch that Netflix, he thinks he's the man too, which is really
important.
He's the guy on the team, and the team's good. Those are the two things that you need to be the MVP. Team has to be good. The guy has to put up numbers, has to have the ball. He can do that. And then in terms of Halliburton, man, at 100 to 1, what can I say? If you told me, the Pacers won 55 games, I'll say straight away, Halliburton must have played well. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go, he's going to get a lot of the credit if they perform at that level. All I'd say is, like, their defense is pretty bad, but, like, at 100 to 1, it can happen. They could win 58 games. Why not? Like, if he stays healthy, even if they get something out of like Mathurin, or, if some of these guys can give a little bit more, Nembhard, like, they got Siakam the full season this time, remember? So that's another option there. I think their problems are still their problems, but if they do well, man, at 100 to 1, why not?
And the fact that Indiana have a bad defense doesn't really knock Halliburton's MVP case either. It's more like, as long as they win a lot of games. And if they're winning games without defense, then his stats going to look even better
That's right.
to, the general public anyway. I've got the TryPod regular season multi that I've cooked up today. But have you got anything else? I haven't covered like absolutely every market. It's impossible to get it all. But was there any other award or stats bet that you've got up your sleeve?
Yeah, I got a few. A rebounder to lead the league in rebounding. Bet Jalen Duren, Victor Wembanyama, and Walker Kessler at 300 to 1. Now, those are all like young guys coming through, and I think the top of the market is like Gobert, Sabonis, and Jokic. Those are all older guys that they might be saving up for the playoffs. So Sabonis is a beast. He plays every game, even if he's injured, and he plays.
To just clarify that, Walker Kessler's 300-1, you said, but Duran and Wembanyama, look, Wembanyama's got to be a bit shorter than that.
No, it was like $12 or $13. It was in the double digits for sure.
$12 or $13, yeah, but not 300-1.
No. Kessler's 300 to 1. Wembanyama and Duran are like $10 to $20 range, around there. And then I backed Shea to lead the league in scoring, and a small bet on Trae Young to lead the league in scoring. He's going to get a ton of shots. And then, so that's 5. There was a lot of selections, right? But that was 2 of them. And James Harden to lead the league in assists. Now, without Kawhi, he's going to have the ball a ton. I think that was $10 plus. That might have come in a little bit since Kawhi got, ruled out. They're going to rely on him to do a lot with the ball, and he's going to pass. He's a really good passer, good pick and roll operator, maybe one of the best in the NBA. Whether the guys can make shots, let's see.
Speaking of most rebounds, Marcus Cameron is in the chat. I'm pretty sure it was Marcus that tipped in the group with a write-up Karl Anthony Towns at 300-1 to lead the league in rebounds. And the argument as well there is
he found him at the price that he was at Minnesota, but he moved to the Knicks. Oh, that was good.
Exactly.
That was really good.
Look, Mitch Robinson is there, but I think he's injured at the moment, and it goes back to Tibbs plays his guys a lot of minutes. Yep. You don't have to make a big argument for 300-1. So shout out to Marcus. I'll be cheering that on as well. And it's a good tip when it's into $41, as Marcus says now. If anything else comes to mind, Tala, especially anything you've tipped where you can remember the odds, people can go and look it up. Please share it in a minute. I will give out my regular season multi that I've come up with today. So I don't need to spend long explaining it because it just leans into opinions I've already shared for the most part. I'm going to take the Magic to have another great year, over 47.5. Now, you don't have to have a great year, honestly, to do that. That's about the same number of games Magic won last year. And I think the team's better. So Magic over 47.5 wins. Knicks over 53.5 wins. I think this team's really going to roll in the regular season. Mavericks under 49.5 wins. The West is so stacked, and I've explained that could be more of a playoff team. And then my lock is going to be Raptors to make the playoffs. So if I look at the East, let's see if I can just rattle off who's going to make the playoffs in the East, right? Celtics, Cavs, 76ers, Pacers, Knicks, Heat, Magic, and that's already 7. And I know I'm missing someone else really good already. And then we talk about who could even possibly make an inroad. Atlanta's there. You talked about Detroit. I reckon Charlotte could be like a dark horse. So there's really not a lot of spots up for grabs. In fact, if you look at the odds to make the Eastern playoffs, the 8th most likely team to make it is Miami, and they are $1.20 to make it, right? So I can't see how the Raptors get in that mix. But my multi altogether is paying $9 on Toppy. You can have up to 50 on that, and our code is TryPod. So high on Magic and the Knicks, a little lower on the Mavs. And geez, you're a brave person if you think that the Raptors might make the playoffs. I'm pretty sure one of their players literally said in the preseason presser. Did you catch that? It was one of the.
Yeah, it was Pirtle. It was Pirtle.
Yeah,
he said we got a lot of young players coming through and we're playing for the future.
Let's be realistic.
When they asked them if they were going to be the champions.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone's optimistic after a tough preseason about how good they can be, but when the players already saying we're not going to be that good, it could be a long season. Cooper Flag is potentially a prize in the draft a year from now, and I know the odds are a little bit more flattened out, but there's still going to be teams that will give it away towards the end of the year, and I think the Raptors will be in that category. Let's conclude the show tonight, mate. I really appreciate all your time, but we'll get out of here after we share our finals predictions and any bets you would have on a conference or a NBA season champion. So tell me who's coming out of the East.
I want the Knicks to come out of the East. I took a large bet on them at $6, but well, not a large bet, but a bet on them at $6. And I think the Celtics, the most likely, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bet, right? But I think the most likely outcome, if they played this thing through 1,000 times, is that the Celtics come out. That's,
For sure.
to me, the most likely outcome. Celtics, and in the West, man, now this is a lot harder. This is really tough, but I'm going to go Thunder. I think, they've got that a little bit of playoff experience now, and they've added good pieces around Shea. And like you mentioned, they've got draft picks. So, like, let's say scoring becomes an issue and they can take the ball out of Shea's hands. Well, they can get another guy properly. They can get another guy that can do some stuff and score the ball because they've got those picks. They've got a lot. So, they still have more potential, even as good as the team is. So, yeah, those are the two teams. If I had to pick two, Celtics Thunder. It's pretty vanilla.
Celtics.
Like, I just picked the two teams at the top of the market, but like, there's good reasons.
It's two different questions. If I ask you who's going to win the East, it would be disingenuous for either of us to probably say the Celtics shouldn't be favourites, but it's another thing of who's the best bet to come out of the East. So I appreciate you made the argument for the Knicks, and I'm actually exactly the same. I think the Celtics should be favourites. Yes.
Like, the bet that I made was the Knicks.
Right, and I predict a Boston-New York conference finals, as I said, which I think would be unreal entertainment. You might have mentioned a price like $6, which once again, maybe you did it before the cat trade or right after the cat trade. But I still see the Knicks at $5 on Ladbrokes and Neds to win the East, to make the finals, and that is also going to be my pick and my bet. And then in the West, which I agree is open. That's why I'm wearing my OKC jersey. I am going to take the Thunder, who are $4.50 on Sportsbet, who are the favourites in the West, but it's pretty wide open. But I think they're the rightful favourites. The Thunder, people probably forget how close OKC was to beating the Mavs in the playoffs last year, closer than anyone else got in the West. The upside with the trade chips we've gotten into, the upside in all those players. So NBA champs then, if you had to pick the champions, you're picking Boston, I assume, just on balance of probability. But if you end up with the finals like I've predicted, if we both get the finals that we're betting on of Knicks, Thunder, who wins it?
Thunder. They got the best player. Oh, it's hard, man. I think they just have more better players. And when you look at it, how many teams get to the end with all their best players? Like, they're usually some guys banged up and they need another guy to play 10 extra minutes, And then if that guy playing 10 extra minutes sucks, well, guess what? You're in trouble. And the Thunder don't really have any guys that I can point and go, oh, that guy sucks. Whereas the Knicks, once you get past their first six, then it's like, Jericho Sims, what's this guy going to do? Who knows?
Or what if it was Knicks, Timberwolves, and we get the bad blood between the players that were traded? Carl Towns up against his old team, and it's already started the preseason. But I'll go same as you. I'll pick the Thunder to prevail over the Knicks. But you know what? In terms of a bet, so I've said I would play Knicks at 5 to win the East. I would play OKC at $4.50 to win the West. Now, yes, Boston should be favourites to repeat and win the title, but let me put it this way. Boston's about $4 to win the title. I prefer backing the Knicks and Thunder, and I'm going to get higher than 4 times my money if either of them wins, because the Knicks are $9.50 on Sportsbet right now. OKC are $8.50 on Sportsbet. So I would actually play them both. They meet in the finals, happy days. But if you got a decent shot that one of them gets there. So that's pretty funny that after all of our, independent research, we both sort of tipped the same finals. With a nod to the Celtics, it's funny, isn't it? Like, we both were really strong on Boston last year. And I don't know if it's because now everyone else sees how good they are. Well, just to me, I'm not as confident in Boston this year as I was last year. I guess that would be the way I'd put it. Is that how you see
I
it
think,
as well?
yeah, I'm less confident too because Porzingis is coming in. He's banged up. Like he's not going to be able to start the season. So that's like a real key to the way that they play is having a center that can shoot threes and stretch the floor. And Cornet and Xavier Tillman or whoever they got coming in is just not as good, really. Horford's another year older too. Like, so it's more their bigs. I still believe in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's an amazing duo, and that's going to take them far. Like they're hard to bet against, but if you can get the Knicks for $6 to beat to win all the way through, why not? Like what why take the unders when it's like, oh man, the Knicks will have a good shot against them if they match up. Now
totally
the
agree
Knicks
with you,
have
mate.
that same piece, that same sort of style of play. They can do the same thing now that they got Cat.
Absolutely. I mean, I already felt that they're going to be tough to handle when they got Bridges, and then you get Cat as well. It would just be such a great playoff series. But I want to shout out Ryan, who's always contributing in our shows, our NRL shows, but he knows his NBA as well. And he says Suns to win the West at $17 is his favorite conference bet. And I've got to say, the Suns have got the upside to do it. I've tipped them a year ago, and it's the same team, if not a better team this year. So based on odds, like they're not my favorite choice in terms of balance of probability, but on odds, honestly, that is really juicy as well. As I said, I haven't tipped him, so I'm not going to be able to take any credit if Phoenix gets there. But I definitely am not writing the Suns off with Coach Bud at the helm as well. Look, mate, we're over 80 minutes tonight. So thanks for putting the shift in with me, mate, and thank you for all your hard work preparing. I definitely want to check in with you again. Maybe we do a little show ahead of the in-season tournament, ahead of the playoffs. Let's see how we go through the year, but just let us know where people can follow you, regularly through the season, because you also look at it like day by day, game by game.
Oh yeah, hey everyone, you can follow me, Tips with T. I'm on IG. I also tip on Facebook, and I run a service. So if you want daily betting tips, get on. 931 units profit, 11% profit on turnover, betting same game multis and player props predominantly. And yeah, that's us. Tips with T.
People who are in the group can find him there. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna have to get one of those as well. So,
Yeah,
and you'll often generously share some tips throughout the season in the TryPod group, so people will be able to find you and get in touch for sure. I just want to let people know as well, the Pacific Championships, the International Rugby League does kick off on Friday, and Clarkie and I are actually going to do a weekly mini preview every Thursday night for the next 4 weeks to preview the big international games and share some tips as well. But I appreciate everyone that tuned in tonight or is catching this video anytime. We've given you a week before the NBA season. It's under a week, really. The first couple of games will be in the books in this time next week. But as always, comment your feedback on this video, guys, what you like or in terms of what we've shared or anything else you found yourself. Happy to continue the discussion. And please share this show with your friends who love their NBA as well, because we've got an awesome track record with some of the tips Tala and I have been able to steer people into so far. And I hope that tonight has been no different. But once again, Tala, thank you very much for your time. Cheers to everyone who tuned in. Enjoy the season. Best of luck and Lego.